All right, so you have a cool stretch strap. Now what do you do with it? All right, like most fitness equipment, there is certain things it does awesome, certain things it can do, and certain things you probably could use something else to do it more effectively. I'm going to show you the biggest, the most important one that I think this stretch strap helps out with, and that's the hamstrings. All right, so we're going to start off with that one. All right, so the move here is going to start off laying down. All right, so we're going to lay down on our back. It's got all these loops on it, so you can work your way into deeper and deeper stretches. So what we're going to do is, it's easier here, you can just loop it around here. Now you can loop it around the foot, or you can even use one of the loops here, you know, and put that on the foot and hold it this way as well. All right, so I could do one side of the strap in, or I could loop the strap in. Sometimes it's going to be easier to just loop the strap in, you know, and sometimes it might be easier for the one foot, the foot in one of the loops. Now you see I got all these loops coming down the side, and so I can hold on to these different places. So if I'm not too flexible, I'm holding way out here, starting that pull there, and I can keep my shoulders in kind of a nice position for this. All right, so I can keep my shoulders pulled back. I'm not coming up off the ground, you know, for this. And so I'm going to slowly ease myself into more and more of a stretch. While you're doing this, keep that bottom leg nice and straight. Keep that back straight, everything lined up really well. Chest is out. You're going to try to straighten that knee a little bit. It doesn't have to be fully straight now. There's a couple different benefits from the straight leg to the slight and bent leg. You just don't want a really huge bent leg, because then you're not going to get the stretch. All right, so a slight little bend is okay, but not a huge bend. Now, I can pull into this stretch, and I get that work, and I can hold it for a little while, and then I can go a little farther, and I start going, oh, I'm doing pretty good. Maybe I'll tighten it up a little bit. All right, so this, you know, you can do this with like a belt or something like that, but these loops are so helpful. And honestly, this thing's like cheaper than a belt, you know. So why would you do that? You know, it's better and cheaper. So we're getting into this stretch, really, really nice, and man, it just feels good. It just feels really good. Hamstring and lower back pain, hamstring and so many other problems, knee problems, other things like that. Really strong correlation. So we get the hamstring looser. Boy, a lot of life is going to feel better. So that's such a good stretch. Now, with this, when I'm doing these stretches, I'm going to show you a couple other stretches that work really good with this as well. But we can also do the resisted stretch. So the PNF, the contract relax cycle. So while I'm on this, I'll just show it to you. So I get into a stretch, and I can actually kind of flex that muscle like I'm trying to pull it back towards the ground. But I'm resisting again, so it's a little bit harder on my hands because I'm actually kind of actively pulling a little bit away from it more. But I'm maintaining that position, and I'm flexing that muscle. So I'm building a little bit of strength with the flexibility. So I get into a good stretch, and I try a little bit of contraction there. You're going to get some of the biggest improvements on flexibility that way. So, you know, I might hold that for anywhere from 5 seconds of flexing to 15 to 20 seconds of flexing even, and then try deeper and deeper and deeper spots. And you're trying to get farther and farther and farther with that stretch. So you can spend, you know, a couple minutes on a leg, you know, as you're doing that. It could take a little while to get there, right? So that's the hamstring. Other one that's going to be really helpful is the quad. All right, for some people it's really hard to get this one. All right, so a lot of times they're trying to bend back, and they have a tough time getting a hold. So like it's tight through this leg. It's tough to grab a hold of this. Now, one thing we can do, you know, is, you know, maybe the easiest way for this one is actually to loop the foot. All right, so I just get this on the foot somehow. Now I got this big long strap here, and I can roll over onto my stomach, and now I can slowly pull this up towards me. All right, so I flex that back, flex the toes back a little bit, you know, and I'm pulling up towards me. Now, as I'm doing this, I got to be careful of my lower back, so I got to pull my abs in, kind of pushing my hips towards the ground as I do this stretch. Now I can get as much stretch as I need, wherever that leg has the need for the flexibility, wherever it can get to, and I can do that resistance on this. So I got it looped on my shoulder here, you know, as I'm doing this. So it really actually doesn't take quite as much on my hands, all right? And so I can get that crank in there and get a nice stretch. I can ease into it farther. But again, make sure your core is, otherwise the back will start to arch too much. Your tailbone will start to tip up. So you kind of tighten the butt cheeks, pull the core in, and push the hips towards the ground as you're doing this nice stretch here. So that's the quad stretch. And again, you can do that contract, relax stuff is there as well. All right, next one here is the hip stretch. All right, so on this one, you're going to kind of loop the leg. So this is another one where it's just hard for people to get there. So the hip's really tight. It's tough to get this to come towards them. so you're going to get your hands in some of the loops there, get yourself in a better position. So I can get it so far, but maybe I can't get it much farther. And I'm going to bring it a little bit more with the arms. So I'm going to keep the arms pretty close, so I'm strong while doing this. If I hold out here, it's not going to be quite as easy to manage there. And I'm going to add a little bit more pressure onto the foot side. So maybe I'll move up a strap, and get that foot to come towards me a little bit more. Now I want to have a little bit around that knee too, just so I'm supporting that knee a little bit more. So I'm getting this nice stretch. I can go down with this leg. This bottom leg can be down while I do this. This one's going to be a little bit more arm intensive. You are going to get more tired. The other two, it doesn't take quite so much. But this one, you are generating some of that difficulty, in the arms to get the stretch to happen. All right, but again, some people have a tough time getting that foot anywhere near them, and so you can start with it pretty far out to start to get that hip to stretch. You're really starting to get that stretch. You might feel it on the outside of the hip, hopefully, in the glutes outside of there, but you might feel a little bit in the groin there as well. If you're feeling too much knee, you don't quite have it right, we need to make sure you're supporting that knee a little bit better, as you're doing that, all right? So I try to keep the back straight as you're doing that as well. A couple upper body stretches, all right? So again, hamstring is by far most helpful, but those other ones can be really, really good too. Upper body stretches here, we just take the strap and we feed it down the back. All right, so it's dangling down my back. I grab onto it with this bottom hand, and I've got it with the top hand. Now we could do some shoulder stretching here, where I start pulling it up, and I'm getting internal rotation on this back arm. And it's like I'm trying to get my hand up higher on my back. I'm trying to wash that dirty spot on my back there. So I'm trying to increase that flexibility in there, so I can hold this stretch in there, get some of that work, into that as well. Don't overdo it on this, because there's some rotator cuff stuff going on that you want to be careful of. But so when in doubt on stretches, a longer duration versus higher intensity is better. So don't over push on any individual stretch, but maybe hold it for a little bit longer and see if you get some change in muscle length there. All right, so we got that one. Now a similar one is really almost same hand position, but now I'll do the other arm here, but I'm going to take it down the back here, and the bottom hand is going to kind of press down, and it's going to put me into more of a tricep stretch. I'm going to stretch this upper arm by pulling down with this part in here. All right, so get a good position so that bottom arm can be nice and strong. And now you're stretching in there. Now while you're doing this, it's helpful to point that elbow up, push the shoulder forward a little bit, and then you can add a little bit more of that little crank in there. Oh, such a good stretch, such a good stretch. The other way to do this a lot of times requires both arms overhead, and sometimes we're not as effective there because this arm just loses a lot of strength there. But now if I get it down here, it's got some strength that it can resist that a little bit more, and you might be able to hold this stretch for a little bit longer without tiring out quite so much. All right, so there's a couple of really good quality stretches, that you can do with this strap. There's a couple of resistance training exercises. I'll try to make a few other videos that are useful with that too, but those are the keys right there. Again, the hamstring, by far, this thing is worth everything just for that good quality hamstring stretch. All right, but the quad, the hip, and some upper body stretches are really nice too. There's some cool things you can do with just stretching out, with this strap as well, that we can show you in some other videos. So, hope you enjoy that. Have fun, be safe, God bless.